Hi everyone and welcome to the GMB and Unite Unions virtual rally. Your unions in the NHS fighting for pay justice. My name is Rahana, I work for the GMB Union and hosting tonight's rally. Right now, our precious resource is our workers who are getting us through the pandemic. We thank you for all you have done and all you are doing. But a thank you does not pay the bills. Our union's fight for pay justice is for all workers, but tonight we are focusing on the NHS. We are live on Facebook, so please do start sharing this live feed, and you can host your own watch party by clicking share at the bottom of this feed. We are hoping to reach out tonight to many NHS supporters because we need everyone to join our call for NHS pay justice. NHS staff are the beating heart of our NHS. They have put themselves in harm's way to take care of us, and they need a proper pay rise. To all NHS staff not in a union, join us. To all NHS staff in a union, step up and join the NHS Pay 15 campaign. With me this evening, we've got a range of speakers, but hopefully on my screen soon you'll see Rachel, GMB National Officer for the NHS, and Colenso, who's the Unite National Officer for the NHS. We've got a brilliant hour planned for you, and we have our superhero key NHS workers also joining as well. So we're going to go straight into the rally. So over to Rachel, GMB National Officer for Health, who's going to tell you why we are hosting the rally tonight. Rachel.
Thanks, Rahana, and hi everybody. Really happy to be here with you all tonight, and just want to say thank you so much for joining us in this joint GMB and Unite the Union rally. We're calling on for pay justice for all NHS workers in all jobs across all pay bands in the NHS. I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined on this platform tonight by my National Officer colleague at Unite, Colenso, and by 4 amazing union reps, Paddy, Holly, Francis and Paul. I speak to our members right across the NHS and the ambulance services daily, and I know you're right in the midst of this second wave of COVID. For some of you, it seems so much worse than the first, and the fight remains the same for PPE, for testing, and now for vaccinations. And exhaustion and mental health issues are a real problem for many. I want to assure you that we will be with you throughout this. Our focus is on making workplaces safe, and whatever you need, we will support you in getting it. However, that is not why NHS workers deserve a pay rise. It is something that should be recognised and acknowledged, but it is not why you deserve fair pay. NHS workers deserve pay justice, and we are committed to doing everything we can to secure that. By pay justice, we mean returning you to the pay you have lost over the last decade due to austerity and pay freezes, pay caps, and below inflation pay awards. And that's why at GMB we're calling for 15% or £2 an hour, whichever's the greatest. Over the last decade, NHS workers have lost out in real terms. The average NHS worker has lost over 15% in their pay. A paramedic has lost £7,500. A staff nurse, almost 6,000. A healthcare assistant has lost 3,500, and a porter has lost almost £3,000. This year, the lowest paid in the NHS fell below the real living wage. The government will say that they can't afford it, that there's a pandemic to pay for, but you do have a right to ask for what you are worth. You should not be expected to pay the bill for a pandemic that your efforts are protecting us all from. NHS workers may have been spared from the Treasury's pause on public sector pay, but we still don't know what that actually means. The government have still not formally issued a remit to the pay review body, so we're calling on them to do that speedily and without restrictions. Unions are currently drafting pay review body submissions. Collectively, across the 14 health unions, we're asking for an early and significant increase. Individually, we're putting in submissions to determine what significant means to us. The GMB pay demand is simple. 15% increase or £2 per hour, whichever's the greatest, a 1-year deal, unsocial hours payments for all staff when off work. Nobody should suffer a financial detriment for being ill, and never again should NHS Pay fall below a real living wage. So over the next few months, we'll be having thousands of conversations with our members. A campaign like this is not won overnight. Every conversation matters, and NHS workers all have a part to play. To get involved, speak to your colleagues and family and friends, ask non-members to join a union, organise workplace meetings, sign our petition, and follow our Facebook and Twitter pages. So, thanks again for joining us tonight. And this is why we need that proper pay rise for all NHS workers. Harm's way to protect us.
But for over a decade, we've faced a real terms pay cut.
GMB has been calling on the government to make sure those who have kept people safe throughout the pandemic are given pay justice.
But the government simply aren't listening to us.
These workers don't need a clap, a badge, or even a snack box. They need a proper pay increase.
We need a simple commitment that NHS Pay will never fall below a real living wage again.
It's not a lot to ask, but this could make a huge difference to thousands of us.
Please join the fight back.
Join our call
For pay justice.
For all NHS workers. Thanks for that strong message, Rachel. So many people are coming together to support this campaign. Here's a short message from television broadcasters Connie and Charlie.
Our NHS key workers have gone above and beyond. They've been there for us all. We've thanked them and applauded them, but they've faced a decade of pay cuts, and now is the time for pay justice for all workers getting us through this pandemic. So please support the NHS Pay 15 campaign.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was just far too lazy to say it.
Did it for him, as always.
Thank you, Connie, and thank you, Charlie, for that lovely message. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Paddy, a States rep from Unite, who's in Northern Ireland. Over to you, Paddy.
Not a very sunny one, but there we go. My role within Unite and within the health service, I've been a member of the health service since 1977, obviously an estates person. I also have represented the estates not only regionally but nationally. And this is why we need to, and we have decided on a national basis as estates people to support this campaign, Pay 15. It's there for us. We have been stood back because of the last 10 to 15 years, and we have lost a big percentage. In that, we are the unseen heroes, not the unsung heroes. We keep everything going in the background, such as your ventilation, your heating, your hot water, etc. We access all areas. It could be theatres, it could be ICUs, it could be nursing homes, it could be A&E departments, anywhere at all. And we try and do this as best we can. Through this whole pandemic, especially in Belfast, we have actually developed such a situation with our employers that we have changed our work pattern. So we now work 3 condensed days rather than the 5-day week, because that's the way we intend to keep our staff safe and be able to supply the service of quality that is required to keep the hospital going, etc., etc. So how we did this and what we had to do over a year ago on the 18th of December, we in Northern Ireland, the health service, and in the first time in history, RCN actually took strike action and stood in the gate along with us, because we had not been paid our money that had been agreed in the 3-year deal. So with that in mind, we believe that every health worker deserves a proper wage, not a big, massive wage, a proper wage. The health service needs to be by the government, it needs to be funded, it needs to be resourced and properly staffed so that we can deliver the service to those people who need it at the point of delivery free. That's what we want. That's what Unite's asking for. And as the chair of the National Health Union, Unite, the chair of the committee, I would like to say we deserve it. It's no, don't clap us, pay us. And at the end of the day, all I can say now is happy Christmas to everybody. Make sure you keep well and keep safe and enjoy Christmas as best you can. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, Paddy. And what I'm going to do is, if everybody just bear with me, I'm going to read a few messages out that are coming in. I mean, I can't read the feed fast enough, but we've got a hello here from East Midlands Ambulance Service. We've got a hello here from Glasgow. The government have the money to pay for it, but can pay billions to their pals to make track and trace. And this is why we're here tonight, is we have to build solidarity across the NHS and the public as well. We've got a shout out here from Brampton in Cumbria. Hi, Naomi. Hello to everybody in Torbay, as well as hello to everybody in Liverpool. And we've got some really good messages here about how can people get involved. Just look at the feed. It'll show you how you can get more involved in the NHS Pay 15 campaign, how you can join a trade union if you're not in a union, and more importantly, how you can build that solidarity, as Clive says as well. And we've got a brilliant shout out here from our young members group saying NHS workers demanding what they are deserved. Absolutely. And we're going to now move on to our next speaker. Gives me great pleasure. We haven't met in person yet. Holly became a GMB rep in the lockdown, as many have in the past few months. Welcome, Holly, tonight. She's leading a brilliant campaign around the NHS Pay 15. It's great to have her on the platform this evening. Over to you, Holly Turner.
Sorry.
Go on, Holly.
Sorry, I just had a couple of technical difficulties there. Can everyone hear me now? Thanks, I just dropped off it for some reason. Right, thank you. Thanks so much for inviting me to speak on this. Yeah, my name's Holly. I'm a nurse and I work in mental health services for the NHS and have done for about 10 years. And also, as Rahana said, proud GMB Union rep. So thinking about our mental health services, how it is working within them, I think our situation is increasingly feeling more and more risky. It's dangerous, it's challenging, and I think for the workers in mental health services, some days it's just impossibly heartbreaking for us, really. Our waiting lists are increasing rapidly and we're regularly faced with situations of there being no beds in the country, and that is NHS and private. The situation's dire and we're doing our very best to care for people in what are the most desperate situations. In those desperate situations, all whilst dealing with chronic understaffing and unsafe working conditions due to record number of vacancies, which have been spoken about already here. But this year, however, we know it's been like nothing us NHS workers have ever experienced before. At the start of the pandemic, the government, they spoke out, they said they would give the NHS whatever it needs. But I'm telling you, on the ground, we have not felt that. We've felt completely undervalued for years, our morale's on the floor. Yet, all of us workers, we continue to step up together. We work with increased risk. We've worked with our colleagues becoming sick. And our patients' dependence on us is increasing all the time. And we do this together as a team and we get through it together. And now we're fighting for what we've owed, for what we are owed together. I love my job and my colleagues and my patients I work with, but in order to do our job properly, we really do need adequate, safe staffing levels. And without a restorative pay increase, things are not going to change for us. In fact, they're only going to get worse and the situation is just going to get more desperate. So this year we started in July, we started the NHS Workers Say No campaign when nurses and NHS workers were left out of the initial public sector pay increase. So we created the campaign group essentially to encourage people to get active, to build power and campaign for some change. We joined forces with Nurses United, and we came about creating the hashtag NHS Pay 15 just to put on Twitter. And obviously now with GMB and Unite also campaigning for 15% workers, we're in a really strong position here. But we do need everyone to get involved, and we can't win without thousands and thousands of workers getting organised. So I want to say to anyone watching, contact your unions, find your local union rep, get active. By the end of this week, make a point of speaking to 5 people about the campaign for pay justice, and definitely share the GMB video, which Rachel introduced earlier. Throughout this campaign, we've made connections all over the UK. We have seen hundreds of people this year since the summer getting activated who've never really been active before in campaigning. And we've seen demos on the streets. There's been hundreds of workplace conversations, the badges all over the UK. And of course, as our lockdown restrictions have increased, people have had to get maybe a little bit more creative with their actions, but momentum still continues to build. And I think it continues to build because we cannot go on like this. And we no longer accept these years of cuts to our wages. We no longer accept our colleagues relying on food banks. We no longer accept people working 40+ hours just to make ends meet and to survive. And we refuse to accept our patient care being compromised due to unsafe staffing levels repeatedly. So finally, I've talked a little bit about connections we've made all over the UK, and down to this, I'm quite excited to introduce a music video, which is written and performed by NHS nurse and Coventry NHS Pay activist Kirsty. The video it's absolutely brilliant. It contains loads of images of action that's taken place all over the country this year, campaigning for NHS Pay 15. It's called Slow Clap Back, and I really hope you all enjoy it.
The system in place to perpetuate, distracted by the race. Embers flicked into play, fan to flames, back controllers of the state. Follow the money, uncover the story. It's our cash to burning, while we never earn any. Funny how magic money trees grow so fruitfully. For IMP, how's you and yours? Tax havens offshore. All stood at your doors while we fought the cause. We paid with applause. It's time to stand up. It's time we said no. Raise your voice, make some noise, clapping. Don't pay the bills, boys. Send us to war while under resourced. Cash theft or balls on dodgy procurement left us all exposed. As we get poorer and jobs go under, queues at food banks getting longer and longer.
Slowly we're all being affected. It's hard to stay calm and collected. Why don't you MP step in our shoes and take a look from our perspective? You stuck up people need correcting. Take a listen instead of objecting. Put the people first, start investing instead of irrelevant spending. Let's hand dry Parliament. Who cannot back off in the arguments? You can never talk about living the struggle when your tough nose isn't even marvellous. People are being paid to lie. That's tourists for you in a state of mind. Invest in healthcare, people's welfare, and the NHS, so we're saving lives.
Follow the money, uncover the story. It's our cash to burning, while we never earn any. About time the magic money trees start shedding leaves for you and me. How's you and yours? Tax havens offshore. All stood at your doors while we cut the calls. We paid with applause. It's time to stand up. It's time we said no. Raise your voice, make some noise, clapping. Don't pay the bills, boys.
That was a very powerful music video, and I just want to say, Holly, thank you so much, and it's great to have you as one of our reps leading this campaign. I just want to read out a couple of messages if I can, and the one I wanted to talk about was Jordan, who says unsafe work is not an isolated issue. Staff levels are low because retention is poor as morale is so low. Recruitment is poor as the pay isn't desirable, and that's why we're campaigning for the NHS Pay 15 campaign. And you know, our NHS campaign has had support from across the country, the 4 nations. I noticed we've got people from England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and we've even got somebody saying hello as far away from Italy. So thank you for joining us tonight. And amongst that support, we very much welcome the support we have from the Labour Shadow Health Minister, Jonathan Ashworth, who's going to say a few words. Over to you, Jonathan.
Hello, Jonathan Ashworth here, Labour's Shadow Health Secretary, and I want to send my greetings to you, to say I stand in solidarity with you, and to thank all of our NHS staff and care workers for what you've been doing in this pandemic, what you're doing now to get the vaccines out, and what you do every day to care for our sick and our elderly. And let me be clear, you deserve a fair pay rise. So I'll be joining your campaign to recognise you properly and to assure you that with a Labour government, our NHS staff, our care workers will get the pay, the resources and the backing they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. And it's really important that we do get politicians on side, because we need that pay rise and we need politicians to stand with us. And if they don't, it's time to serve notice on some of those politicians. Our next speaker is Frances, who's a Unite rep. She's also a speech and language therapist who's going to say a few words. Are you with us, Frances? Just as Frances comes out, I'm just going to say a few more shout outs. We've got Keith Venables. Hi, Keith. The NHS is being privatised and underfunding. Good to connect NHS workers and campaigners for fully reinstating our NHS. We've got John from Swanage who's saying, I'm a 60-year plus brickie, and he's with us all the way. And somebody said, have we got a link to share on the music video? We will post that a little bit later, and they really do love the song, so thank you very much for that. Unfortunately, I don't think we can get Frances, so we're going to move to one of our videos from Mr. Mead. Lee Mead is going to the video. We're going to put a video on from Lee Mead. Sorry, technical hitch there.
Hello to all you key workers, part of the GMB. It's Lee Mead here. I just want to say thank you so much for all your work this year and working through the pandemic. I've got key workers in my family myself. My brother Casey's a customs officer and dad's a postie, and sister-in-law Charlotte's a nurse. And I just want to say thank you. And I'm supporting all your campaigns for more pay as well. And I'm giving away 1,000 free tickets to my tour. So you can go on my website and come and see me sing. It's a little gesture to say thank you. But keep going. And have a lovely Christmas, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you very much, Lee Mead, and we'll be putting up some details on how you can access those tickets going forward. And just while we're on, I just want to sort of say oh, we've got Frances. Frances, you're with us. Hi, Frances. We lost Frances. Over to you, Frances.
Okay. Apologies. I'm getting a lot of feedback, so I'll just work through that. As a speech language therapist since
feedback from Frances, so hopefully we can get Frances back on. But whilst we're doing that, I just want to say that there's some fabulous people behind the scenes helping us out today. We've got all our reps, we've got members as well as Unite and People's Assembly who are sharing this stream onto their pages. We just want to say thank you very much, People's Assembly, and we want to do a big shout out to the People's Assembly Big Christmas Food Bank fundraiser. And to see how you can get involved, go to their crowdfunder page, which will feature a little bit later in the message box. Time is flying, and I don't think we're going to be able to get Francis back. So I'm hoping we can go over to the Northwest, and Paul Turner, who's a GMB rep, a paramedic, who's gone above and beyond in this pandemic, like many of his co-workers. Paul Turner, welcome, and over to you.
Thank you, Rahan. It's a great opportunity to speak, not just on behalf of paramedics, but all of the ambulance staff. You know, the paramedics seem to get some of the glory, but actually we've got a huge network behind us as well. I think one of the major questions that people will be asking is, why do the NHS staff deserve such a pay rise when individuals across the whole country potentially have lost jobs or lost incomes? And why is the GMB calling for a 15% increase? Well, it's not about why the NHS staff deserve such a pay rise. This is about austerity going over a decade, where some of my colleagues have lost significant amount of money. And if I take you to some of those figures, you know, if I look at our 111 staff, they're the ones that you ring for non-urgent calls. They've lost about 14.3% of their salary over the last 10 years. Paramedics, just like myself, we've lost 16.5%. If we look at the technicians at band 5, they're at 16.3%. Technicians at band 4, they're 16.5%. Our 999 call handlers are at 14.3%, and our PTS staff are at 13.1%. So we're requesting a 15% pay rise or a pay campaign, which is significant over the time. The government have talked some great words recently about how they're going to reward the NHS staff. And I think it's about time this government actually did that, because a lot of talk doesn't pay the bills. So if I take you away now a little bit towards the pandemic, and I know a lot of people have talked about the pandemic, but for me and for my colleagues, this isn't about the pandemic. This is about what we're rightly owed over the last 10 years. The pandemic has been very, very difficult. We've literally had the poorest, and I mean the poorest of PPE, responding to people every single minute of every single day in the ambulance service with nothing more than a sandwich apron and a epoxy mask. We were really let down by this government, and I think it's an absolute shame that it's still continuing. I think the government also need to reconsider the unsociable hour element for ambulance staff, because we now have a 2-tier workforce, which again is a financial impact to ambulance staff, which is not why we're here. What we need to look at is a 1-tiered system that doesn't stop people from promotion, because on section 2 it is a pay cut for promotion or progression. Often I hear my colleagues now on a regular basis saying how their morale is at the lowest, they feel let down, we're underfunded, we don't have any ambulances to respond to the people when we need them because it's out of the area, it's in another area. So just because your local ambulance is designed, for instance, at Lancaster, it could be spending the whole time in a different county, even in a different region. So what we need to do is to fund the NHS properly. Lastly, I'd like to just say this isn't about greed or what we deserve. This is about NHS staff going above and beyond every single day to protect the public. So it's about time the government support the pay campaign and really give the NHS staff, from the lowest paid to the highest paid, a significant pay rise. So come on, the Tories, let's get behind this and let's see some of your money. We also now need to consider, the last thing for me to consider is the mental health in the ambulance service and across the NHS. It's now time that we actually recognise it as a true illness and we support these staff into ill health retirement if that's what's required. We can't not support ambulance staff who are significantly stressed from the jobs that they attend. That's me now, I finished mine, but I hope that we get everyone behind us and let's support the NHS Pay 15. Thank you very much on behalf of the ambulance staff.
Thank you so much, Paul, for that. And you know, as Paul says, we all need to get behind this campaign. You know, a pay rise is long overdue. We've had a decade of pay cuts, and if we're not going to fight in this pandemic when our workers have gone above and beyond, you know, then now is absolutely the time. And we're going to give it one more last go to see if we can get Francis on. Francis, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Great, Francis, over to you.
Okay, I apologise. I'm obviously much less IT competent than I thought I was, so apologies. Back to the pay campaign. So I've been working in the NHS as a speech and language therapist since 1996. I joined the union as a student because I was quite concerned, or very concerned, about something called Agenda for Change, which I was told was on its way. And it was a time of great learning and very useful to me. I've been a rep for many years. I'm the staff side chair where I work in a trust in a specialist centre for children with severe speech disorders. I also work at a national level within Unite with colleagues from all over the UK supporting speech therapists where they need it in schools, community and hospitals. Many colleagues over the past 10 months have been working to carry out face-to-face appointments where they've needed to, and they've also massively increased remote working incredibly quickly, working on the hoof to be able to maintain services to people. We work with admin staff and allied health professionals. We have members, medical physics personnel, audiologists, and lots of other scientists, and also doctors. As a therapist, I never expected to earn a fortune. However, I did believe I would get some kind of pay rise every year, and I did not expect to see cuts to my pay in real terms. I also trusted the government to deliver that part of my pay which was deferred, my pension, fairly. Instead, we've had to go on strike over cuts to our pensions in recent years. Now I and my colleagues understand that the past 10 years has undermined our pay by around 15%. Incredible. Let alone the actual salary loss. There are people who've just retired or are planning to, who have literally had those sums of money taken from their pension for the rest of their lives, which can never be regained. As well as these financial slaps during these incredibly difficult times, colleagues are telling me they don't feel safe in their workplaces due to the lack of PPE, that they don't have space to take breaks safely and be able to observe social distancing. They're all putting themselves at risk to maintain services, and they feel they're being told they're not deserving of a pay rise. Again, these are slaps, not claps. On top of the normal stresses these staff are having around their work, their pay seems to be going backwards. In some cases, a pay rise has resulted in a net loss of pay due to increases in pension contributions. How is this just, and how can a government claim they are supporting NHS staff when this is the case? People are being driven to the point where they can't take it anymore and are leaving. We don't have people to replace them. As other speakers have said, everything is about staffing. If we can't pay people properly, they won't come to work for the health services. This campaign is about valuing staff, whether they're providing a medical service or, like me and my colleagues, working to improve the quality of people's lives or working to support services through admin and other crucial support roles. All staff working in the NHS deserve a pay rise, which goes some way towards redressing the theft over the past decade. I support this campaign wholeheartedly and believe it should continue until these wrongs are put right. So join your union, get active, tell people you believe in a realistic pay rise for staff because you deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francis. I'm pleased we managed to link up with you. So well done for that. Thank you, Francis. And Frank, your friend, says, it's great to see my good friend Francis on this call. She's a real fighter for her profession and the NHS. I had the honour of working with her and her wonderful colleagues for a few years. That's a message from Frank, Francis. And I just want to say thank you also, Paul Turner, for your contribution as well, Paul, and keep up the brilliant work at our Northwest Ambulance Service Branch 2. We're going to move on to our next speaker, who's a very good friend of ours, Unite Head of Health, Colenso, who's going to say a few words. Over to you, Colenso.
Thank you very much, Rihanna. It's a privilege to be involved in this wonderful rally and with such an array of speakers. I never thought I'd be sharing platforms with celebrities like Paddy, Holly, Francis and Paul, because they are the real celebrities, though we thank Lee Mead, we thank Connie Huck and Charlie Brooker for being around, but they are the celebrities and they should be treated like celebrities, because our NHS workers all across the country has been the glue that has kept us all together over the past 9 months or so. We know health workers are exhausted and also suffering from the psychological conditions of putting themselves on the line every single day, whether that has been because of the shortages of PPE or indeed with testings. We know this has not been a smooth road. But despite this, NHS members in a range of professions, whether it's from paramedics, estates, speech and language therapists, nurses, clinical psychologists, porters, cleaners, domestics, they have been working with us every day. And they've been unflinching and steadfast in their care for all of us and in keeping us safe. The time for scrapping has stopped. And now is the time for NHS workers to get the early and significant pay rise that they indeed deserve. Unite the Union, just like the GMB, are asking for a 15% pay rise and a minimum £3,000, whatever is greater. And will also join with our sister trade unions in calling for an early and significant pay rise for NHS staff. We will not let the forces of negativity defeat us or break our stride. We will not allow the government that cares more about the assets of the few whilst sacrificing the needs of the many to succeed. And it is actually a year since we had that dreadful general election defeat. We won't let that stop us. We need to continue. We need to get together and reinforce it, because the only way to make sure we can invest in the NHS and give the NHS what it needs is to kick this Conservative government out. We must make sure we do that when we next get the chance. It is heartbreaking to hear of NHS workers going to food banks, and it's an utter disgrace that the government has told other public sector workers that they will receive a pay freeze in 2021. We stand in solidarity with other public sector workers, and we will rally with them to make sure they get a pay rise as well in 2021. Though you deserve a decent pay rise and pay justice, it won't be given to us. We've got to stand up and we've got to take it. NHS workers have suffered immensely over the last 10 years, and the pay rise isn't just about money in our workers' pockets and our members' pockets. What it's also about is making sure that we recruit and retain the staff in the NHS. You probably know, and I know we've had some esteemed people give us comments, they'll know, but there's 100,000 vacancies in the NHS. If we don't pay our NHS workers properly, there will be vacancies. If we don't invest and train people, that will happen, and it will damage our NHS. And that's what's happened over the last 10 years. It will also boost the economy, the pay rise of all across the country, because in many areas of the country, the NHS is the largest employer. So there's a benefit for everyone paying public sector workers decently and fairly. Today's rally shows that when we come together, whatever union we're from, we can be unstoppable. We have more that brings us together in solidarity than the differences we have. My uncle used to say to me when I used to leave the home, keep the faith. Then my mother used to say to me when I left the house, spread the faith, Colenso. That's what we need to do. From this rally today, we need to spread the faith. We need to tell colleagues why NHS workers and public sector workers deserve their pay rise. We need to tell our colleagues and friends about this campaign after this rally and keep it alive and keep it going all through the next few weeks and months. And we urge you to continue to write to your MPs. We urge you to continue to sign the petitions and show whatever support you can to ensure that we can win this. We've got truth and justice on our side. We're certainly not done, and we won't stop, and we won't give up. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being on our side today. And let us go forward together and get what we deserve. All the best.
Thanks, Colenso. And we've got some messages that have just come in saying excellent speech from Mark Randall. And Colenso, you're absolutely right. We have to keep the faith, and we have to spread the faith too as well. We're going to move into a very short question and answer session just after a video. So if you've got any questions, please do put them in the message box. But just before we move on to the video, I really want to give a special shout out to Joe, Jack, Amanda, Craig, Dave, everybody behind the scenes, making it possible for us to run this rally. And we're going to move to a video now, and I want to say a special thanks to Adam Kay, who has a brilliant message. The NHS Pay 15 campaign, was a junior doctor, is now a comedian and writer. Over to you, Adam.
And I used to be a junior doctor. I couldn't be more proud of the NHS and how far above and beyond every single key worker has gone this year to keep us safe. After a decade of pay cuts, it's time to say thank you in a very real way for the work they've done to get us through this awful year and the pandemic. I obviously support the NHS Pay 15 campaign.
Oops, that was slightly cut short, but we just want to say thank you very much, Adam. And we are doing a bit of a recording of the event this evening, so hopefully you'll get to see that on one of our Facebook pages going forward. Right, so we've got a few minutes, literally, so we're going to bring Rachel and Colenso back onto the screen, and we're going to just do a very short question and answer. So if anybody's got a specific question, please do raise that. If not, I've made a few notes. Hi, Rach. Hi, Colenso. Let's go on the 100,000 vacancies. You know, the government keeps saying that they're investing in NHS staff. There are more nurses than there's ever been. We need to do a bit of myth busting. We've got 100,000 vacancies, and what we've got is staff working above and beyond. How do we fix that problem, Colenso? No pressure.
Yeah, well, we need to keep on campaigning, and we need to keep on telling people that this can be done, and that we continue to make the case why NHS workers in particular. It doesn't matter what profession they are, needs to be invested in. So writing to your MP is key. I know Unite and GMB are urging people to write to their MP and campaign and tell people that they're putting their MPs on the spot to see if they support us. And I've got to say, even though I am a member of the Labour Party and a supporter of the Labour Party, it's very important, even if you've got a Conservative MP or a Liberal Democrat MP, that you tell them what's important and ask them and put them on the spot on why they should be supporting this campaign. It's a shame we're not able to lobby Parliament and do things like that. I'm sure we would have been doing that in different times. But we need to tell them what goes on, because often NHS workers don't realise, some of these MPs and some of the people that run the NHS, and I'm sure Rachel will agree with me, they don't actually have a clue about how the NHS works, or don't really hear about how you feel as NHS workers or people that support the NHS, what really goes on. So it's important that you try and speak to your MPs, you write to them and tell them what's going on, because they often don't know.
Absolutely spot on, and it's really important. Both of the union websites will have a function where you can write to your MPs, and the campaign details are on there, so we're hoping that you can do that. Rachel, Kelly Robbins. Hi Kelly, I've seen you in the virtual world. I hope you're well. Thank you so much. It's a very important question, this, Rachel. Why do we need to keep telling people about the NHS Pay 15 campaign? Are you there?
I'm on mute. Oh, there you go. I couldn't get myself off mute. Sorry about that. And hi, Kelly. Good for you to join us tonight. Why do we need to keep telling people? Because surprisingly enough, some people don't yet know about it. You know, we're notorious for posting things on social media and presuming that it gets seen. What it actually takes is thousands and thousands of face-to-face conversations. And for us, normally we would be right there with you on the wards, in the hospitals, outside the ambulance stations, speaking to as many NHS staff as possible. But unfortunately, we have to be safe, we have to be sensible with COVID. So we're relying on the virtual world as much as possible. But you, the ones that are actually out there in the workplaces, you can be having those face-to-face conversations. People need to understand why we're asking for pay 15, that you deserve it, that you're not asking for anything more than you're entitled to. And it's those conversations that will ultimately win. It's those conversations that's got us to where we are today. We've got a few months more ahead of us, but those conversations really, really matter. It's so important people get engaged, get involved, and have those conversations.
Thank you very much, Rachel. And there's quite a lot of people saying, are the unions going to back us if we want to take action? I can answer that question as National Secretary for Public Services. It's really quite simple. As you know, a couple of years ago, the government reformed the industrial action thresholds for strike action. But our message is quite simple. We want to organise working power. We've got our demand for NHS Pay 15. When it comes to a ballot, you need to take part in that ballot. And it will always be union members that decide whether we take industrial action or not. Our strength is in our numbers. So one of the key messages from tonight's campaign is this: the vast majority of workers not in the union is so we're asking you to join the union. And those that are already in a union, if you haven't got a union rep on site, become a union rep. It's really important to do that. In terms of Calenza and Rachel, one for both of you. What is the time frames for next steps? We know that the peer review body's recommendations haven't been tabled, but can we sort of estimate what happens in the new year, please? Rachel, do you want to come in first and then Calenza?
Yep, absolutely fine. So we're working to a bit of an estimated timetable as we speak. We were already... So back in the summer, all 14 unions wrote to the government and actually asked for pay negotiations on an early and significant pay increase, and didn't receive any sort of satisfactory response to that request. So we're all planning to go down the pay review body route. We're already operating to a bit of a delayed timetable. We're currently expecting that our written submissions need to be into the PRB by the middle of January. But as we said earlier, the remit's still not being given by the government, so these dates could extend a little. But the pay review submissions will go in. The unions will be called to give oral evidence at PRB hearings. That'll probably be around February time. The likelihood is we may know possibly what a recommendation on your pay will look like towards the end of February, maybe March or April time. We will then be coming to you and speaking to you about what you think of the pay deal. And as different unions have different consultation processes, but for GMB, you know, that'll include a ballot paper for members. But I'll let Calenza come in with Unite's position on what they're doing.
Calenza. You're on mute, mate.
I'm on mute. Hello. Is that better? Yeah. Thank you, Rachel. Rachel said a lot of what's going to happen. Yes, we're waiting for the remit from the pay review body. What should happen next is that trade unions will submit a response to the pay review bodies. We'll do that as jointly as trade unions. And Unite will also submit our own response to the pay review body. We've just conducted a survey of our members, so we'll take that and put that into the pay review body. Then Rachel and I, with the other trade unions, will be asked to submit some verbal evidence to the pay review body. That should happen after we've submitted the written evidence. At the moment, the written evidence is meant to be submitted on the 18th of January, but because we haven't received the remit, that might be extended. So we'll be doing that. And we mustn't forget as well, the Scottish government are not going to submit a remit to the pay review body. In Scotland, because health is a devolved matter and the governments of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland could do their own thing, the Scottish government have decided they'll have their own pay talks with the Scottish trade unions and the Scottish employers. They're still setting up the terms of reference of that at the moment, but they've actually committed to a pay rise for Scottish workers from December 2020, and they want to conclude those pay talks by March of 2021. But you'll know, of course, as well in Scotland, that they've also given a £500 bonus, and there's some issues over that which our friends and colleagues in Scotland are dealing with. But there are sort of parallel timetables there, just to include our members in Scotland on that. But we're ready. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't give up, and we should continue fighting and continue making the case for why NHS workers deserve the 15%.
Thank you very much, Colenso. And we are literally running out of time. So what we're going to do is, there's been quite a lot of questions. We hope to answer them to you directly. Maybe we could WhatsApp you or private message you a little bit later. But all I just want to say is thank you to everybody that has joined us this evening. I'm going to let Rachel and Cleanser say a few final words before we close. Rachel, over to you.
Yeah, just thank you so much for joining us. We've still got a long way to go and a lot of conversations to be having over the next few months. Christmas is going to be a tough time for a lot of our NHS workers. They don't get the luxury of having the time off. We're still in the midst of a pandemic. PPE is still an issue. Access to vaccinations is still an issue. So there's a lot of work to be doing as well as the pay campaign. So let's stick together collectively, support each other as much as we can. Get organised, tell people to join a union and get active. Follow the union's Facebook pages and Twitter feeds and sign the petitions. Get involved everywhere you can. And just thank you again for everything that you're all doing.
Thank you, Rachel. Colenso.
Thank you very much, Rana, and thank you very much for organising this. It's a privilege and real honour to be involved in this, and I'm glad that we could take the message out to many more people that probably aren't trade union members. If you're not in a trade union, do join a trade union. Rachel and myself definitely, because as Rachel said in another event that we've seen, and I see Rachel more than my own family, members of my own family, because we're all sorts of Microsoft Teams calls and Zoom calls. But we are there trying to do our best and being the voice of NHS workers in terms of the COVID terms and conditions, and also talking about pay and all sorts of other stuff that they talked about, whether it's the long-term plan, the NHS People's Plans, fighting to make sure Black, Asian, ethnic minority workers are respected and we get the justice for them they deserve in the NHS. Did you know in the NHS still, if you're a Black, Asian or ethnic minority worker, you're more likely to be disciplined? So that's part of our agenda as well, making sure we speak up and we cannot be frightened about talking about race in the NHS. Also as well, there's the privatisation and the sickness of the market that we've got to continue to fight against, to make sure our workers are outsourced and NHS workers stay in the NHS. NHS should mean NHS. And we will not allow any more wholly owned subsidiaries, and we'll fight every outsourcing. And we want to make sure those outsourced workers return back to their rightful place in the NHS. So there's lots for us to do. We know it's hard for you NHS workers. We know it's tough. We know you're exhausted. But we want to walk with you. We want to be in your shoes and do our best to make sure that all your hard effort and hard work is recognised. Stick with us. Join a union. Tell your friends, tell your colleagues, don't be afraid of being political. Put it on your neighbourhood WhatsApp group that you deserve the pay rise that's there for you, and we'll be behind you, whatever course of action our members decide to take. Thank you very much and Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Colenso. Thank you, Rachel. And can I just say a huge thank you to everybody. And I just want to finish on this. The best present you can give an NHS worker this Christmas is get them union membership and get them a pay rise. Our strength, as everybody's already said, is in our numbers. And if you're not in a union member, I make no apologies. I will ask and ask and ask. If you're not a union member, join us today. Details are at the bottom of the screen. And we've had loads of messages of support. We are still early in our NHS Pay 15 campaign. And as Colenso said, we thank all the celebrities. And I know many more will support us going forward. But let's not forget, you are the real heroes. And we are going to win pay justice. Standing in solidarity, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. And lots of people have said, can we have more rallies? Fingers crossed we'll get some more rallies in the new year. Stay safe, everybody. Take care. Join the union. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Merry Christmas.